Anyway, we welcome everybody and thank you for your participation here today. I certainly want to welcome Robin Finnegan, who's the director of FEMA here. And Robin, we're happy to have you here. And you've got Jerry DeFelice? DeFelice. I'm sorry, Jerry. I butchered your last name, but I'll just call you Jerry. Anyway, we're honored to have you here with us, too. Again, it's nice to have FEMA join us with this review here today. And people, representatives Maxine Margaritas from our American Red Cross. And Joe Doherty. So anyway, and of course the Lieutenant Governor's here with us. We've had 940,000 people participate in this mock exercise here today. We started when I was Lieutenant Governor and now under the direction of Greg Bell, our Be Ready Utah program, designed to help people be ready. And people often ask, be ready for what? Well, fill in the blank. And we've seen disasters here in Utah, fires, floods, different kinds of emergencies where people have had to be ready to address those issues. But the one that we really fear, the one that will really cause us a lot of damage, would be a large earthquake here on the Wasatch Front. We live on a Wasatch fault zone. It's been 350 years since we've had a big earthquake, and they happen every 350 to 400 years. So the worry for all of us is there's probably one that's due. And if we have one that's 7.0 on the Richter scale, it's going to do a lot of damage. And so the importance for us as a state government, our local government colleagues, is to make sure that we as a people are as prepared as we can possibly be for that inevitability that's around the corner. And so today, with 940,000 people participating, we've had private citizens, we've had businesses, we've had schools, we've had faith-based organizations, churches, entities from all over the state participate in what we call the Great Utah ShakeOut. And at 10:15 this morning was when we had notification that when the earthquake occurred, and we had very simple instructions throughout the state to just drop, cover, and hold on, which is what you want to do in an earthquake. Drop, cover, and hold on. I want to report that when the alarm went off here in Utah, that we did that very thing. We were in policy meeting, as it happened to be in the Rampton room, and we dropped and crawled underneath the table. It was not just an exercise to see if Greg and I were still flexible enough to do that. It was to see if we, in fact, could fit under the table and what would happen, and was everybody prepared to do that. And it worked remarkably well, as all of our staff and those who were on the not even around the table, we all crowded underneath there and held on until we got the all-clear sign to move out. And then we went out to the West Capitol steps and stood out there. We had roll call to make sure we had accountability for everybody on our staff, and we had people assigned to do that to make sure that somebody was not stuck back in the building and everybody was accounted for. As I mentioned, we live in a seismic zone. It's probably just a matter of time when we're going to have an earthquake here on the Wasatch Front. And we hope this is kind of a wake-up call. We get complacent in our lives. It didn't happen yesterday. Why will it happen tomorrow? And we need to understand that we do bear some risk here in this area that we live and need to be prepared. If we had a 7.0 on the Richter scale, the magnitude of the disaster is almost hard to comprehend. We could have literally tens of thousands of homes and dwellings that would be out of commission. We could have, natural gas break in lines, power lines down, transportation not to be able to get from across town just a few miles or blocks away because of breaks in transportation arterial corridors. The thing that scares me the most is that we could be cut off from medical help. Hospitals could be destroyed. Different medical centers would be out of commission, and it would make it much more difficult for us to provide medical help. The purpose of the exercise here is not to scare people. It's easy for us to kind of be a little glum about this, but the idea is not to scare people, but to help them understand the realities of what we face here as a state and in this region, and to be prepared for it. And I know many of us have heard the idea that if you're prepared, you won't need to fear. And I think it gives us confidence going ahead. It's the old Boy Scout motto, be prepared. And we want to make sure that here in Utah we are prepared. The Utah Department of Public Safety, our Division of Emergency Management, will continue on this exercise for the next 3 days. We're going to try to find where we have holes in our planning. We have found some already today of some communication gaps and some areas where we need to improve. And so this exercise will help us find those vulnerabilities and then make corrective action. We are working with federal authorities, as you know, local authorities, the National Guard, businesses, relief organizations, to ensure that our plans and our resources are as robust as they can possibly be. Now, I want you to know that I have full confidence in our agencies. They are prepared, and they're good people, and I think that they're going to be able to handle any disaster that is thrust upon us. I have a lot of confidence in them, but preparation and practice helps us, and that's what we're doing today. And the most critical preparation probably we can do is the awareness we need to give to the Utah public, and make sure that their personal and family responses to this emergency are at least there's a plan, rather than, gee, now what do we do? And I'm afraid that too many of us are now, what do we do, stage. So we need to heighten awareness and heighten preparation. We're a state that's talked about 72-hour kits for most of my life. And every family should have, for each one of their members, a 72-hour kit to help them be prepared. And so as we take this opportunity going through this drill to really assess where we're at as a state, we as individuals and families need to assess where we're at on this preparation for some kind of a natural disaster that could occur. And do we have 72-hour kits? Do we have drinking water that would help us to survive over a number of days or weeks? And not only for just ourselves, but for all members of our family. Do we have a communication plan? When this happens and we're as a family scattered, how do we get in touch with each other? Do you have first aid kits available? Because you may not have medical attention for some days or access to medical attention. Do we have fire extinguishers in our homes to put out a fire? Do we understand even where the shutoff valves are if we have a break in our water lines and have to go shut it off? I know my wife does, the First Lady, but the question is, do I know where to go turn them off? I would urge all of our Utahns to, again, as they become aware of this issue today, to visit our BeReadyUtah.gov site, www.beready.gov, which will give you a lot of helpful advice and counsel on what you can do as individuals and families to be ready. A number of steps you can do to prepare yourselves and your family. So today we urge all Utahns to start today, by preparing. We hope and we pray that we never have to use any of this preparation. But if we ever have a natural disaster, if we have a 7.0 Richter scale earthquake, we'll all be very happy that we've prepared for it, because we'll be able to get through it together much easier than if we're just hoping that somebody will come and take care of us because we haven't taken the time to prepare. 7.0 earthquake would be a terrible disaster, but it will be even worse if we're not personally prepared to react and to recover. So we thank everybody for attending the press conference today, and if there's any questions, see, Lieutenant Governor, you got something you'd like to say? We'll let the Lieutenant Governor, and then we'll open up for questions.
I will not repeat what the Governor said, and thank you, Governor, for your leadership here. I want to assure the people of Utah that we have a first-class emergency response network, but really it's in the preparation of the people. Utah always deals with these disasters. We've talked about it. It's part of our culture. A couple of things that if we could just learn, so many fatalities and casualties occur by people running out of buildings. Just that one simple thing, and it's certainly the human impulse, but to drop, cover, and hold on is going to save a lot of injury and lives. People need to understand that almost 1 million Utahns are participating today, thinking about what they would do, including churches, banks, hospitals, doctors, and all kinds of institutions across our state, wondering how would we respond, how would we do. Earthquakes don't necessarily occur, or disasters, at 10 o'clock on a clear Saturday morning when everybody's at home. And that leads me to my last point. My concern is to know where our family is and how are we going to be assured that they're doing okay, and if we're separated, what will be our contact procedure, and how will we know that our children, our husband, whatever, are safe. So we need to think through those plans. Every school has an emergency plan, and mothers and fathers need to be aware of that plan, how they can integrate with that, how they can pick up their children, what will happen to their children if they're not able to get to them in 1 day or 2 days. School districts and others are very, very prepared for that. So we have a wonderful emergency response network in this state, both at the top and every citizen. Thank you very much.
With that, again, I think the importance of teamwork and cooperation. Everybody's going to have a role to play in a natural disaster, and we want to make sure that everybody knows their role and plays it as best they can. And certainly from the state level, we're going to do our job. I don't know if there's any questions. We certainly would open up for questions.
Governor, you mentioned that early discovery led to some communication gaps that may need some working out. Were there other things that popped into your head where you thought, I never thought that this would be part of it? Something that just came into your head as the process was going on that caught you by surprise?
Well, not yet, but then I haven't got all the information, so I don't know how other things are playing out across the state. You know, I'll be getting a briefing on that later today, and just like if this is a real situation, I would know some things, but not all things. And so information will be brought to us, and we'll evaluate it and say, gee, that was a mistake, or too bad, why didn't we have this in place? So I expect that it'll be kind of an evaluation that we'll learn more as we go through the day. But we've had some communication gaps and information as far as what should have been shared and gotten, and people arriving at the same place at the same time has been. All right. In fact, here we have now the cavalry's coming, our Commissioner of Public Safety, and so again, having the team together so we can deploy appropriately is important. The biggest single factor, my view, for emergency disaster is communication. I was in New Orleans and went there after the Hurricane Katrina situation there. I was invited by Lieutenant Governor Mitch Landrieu to view that. And the biggest problem they talked about was the lack of communication. Even people just across town were not able to communicate with each other. So that's a big issue for me, is to make sure that our communications are good and viable, and that we don't end up having this kind of a blackout of communication, because that's going to be will compound whatever problems we have.
I know that this is the biggest drill we've done statewide. Do we have plans for the future? Do we want to do this more often, or what's?
Well, again, that'll part of our evaluation. How often should we do this kind of a drill? This is a big one. We've tried to get all the community involved, and I think there's some merit to doing that. How often we should do one of this magnitude will probably be part of our discussion going forward. But do know this, that our cities, our counties, and the state do have their own mock drills all the time. And we call them tabletop exercises. I know we've done some in the past. Governor Huntsman had me over the Homeland Security aspects of the executive branch. Greg Bell is taking that role on now, and we do, in fact, incorporate working with our business community, our schools, and our local communities as the first responders, and go through drills on a regular basis.
Governor, Commissioner Davenport and Major Herbert can speak to that point about some of the exercises that planning the agencies and like the National Guard today.
Why don't you come over? General Burton, of course, is our National Guard, and Lance Davenport, our Commissioner of Public Safety.
Good morning. We work on a regular basis with cities and counties to prepare for situations just like this. And so we feel confident that we're prepared. As the governor has mentioned, communication is always the long pole in the tent, as we call it. We strive to make sure we've got redundant communication so that when a situation like this occurs, we can continue to communicate. It also needs to be pointed out again and stressed that the governor and lieutenant governor both talked about this, but we've been all over the country involved in events such as this, and we find that where the communities are personally prepared, the end result is a lot better for folks. And so I think one of the things we need to get out of this is to stress this Be Ready Utah campaign and to make sure that individual families are prepared for events like this. So on this day and the next few days, folks ought to be reflecting on what they can do to harden themselves and prepare themselves for an event like this. So again, just to recap it, we've done multiple exercises with cities and counties. The most important thing is that we know each other, we communicate on a regular basis so that if an event like this does occur, we know who to talk to and really what to do because we've drilled it over and over. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you. What has been said is absolutely correct. We, on a regular basis, are working to plan and prepare for events such as this. Although this is the largest one that we've ever held, there will be future opportunities. I believe this will become an annual event as well, maybe on a smaller scale. But to test the plans and the preparations that we work every day on. I can tell you in the Utah Department of Public Safety, of course, this effort was pushed out statewide and the public at large was encouraged to participate in some way or another. I can tell you that the Department of Public Safety has taken the opportunity to review our plans for continuity of operations, personal preparedness, and our ability to call our staff out and deploy them and position them in areas where they may be needed in a statewide event such as this. And so as we speak today, the Utah Highway Patrol is practicing their plans and calling down and accounting for their staff and designating, if they were needed, places to meet and preparing for what would be probably in a scenario such as this, a long haul event where they may be needed not only to conduct their mission but also to assist local communities and whatever other needs the governor may have statewide that he's trying to address. Also, the Division of Emergency Management plays a key role. That is part of the Department of Public Safety. They are in the process right now, of activating the Emergency Operations Center at the state level, and that exists to support the local communities as they need assistance from the state. And so that's going on right now. I can tell you they have been very involved for a number of years in planning and preparing for this event so that we can play out our role at the state level properly in supporting the local communities, cities, and counties as they try to deal with the aftermath of an event such as a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. So those are just some of the things. Of course, at the bottom level of all of this, we use this as an opportunity with our employees to encourage them to be prepared by having a plan, a kit available for them, for their families, and to be involved in the process personally so that, because that's a concern we all have, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, whatever your role is, you're going to be concerned about those loved ones that are at home or wherever they might be. And really the only way to ensure in a time like this or any level of comfort would be that they are prepared with the basic things like a kit and a plan. And the governor mentioned communications. Always in our world, that's a key component of what we do every day, and in an event such as this, it would be a challenge. But this is a test of those plans and the technology we have in place, and today we'll know how well it works. So.
Did you get that soundbite?
Let me just emphasize again, the Commissioner talked about, have a plan. We need to have a plan. We need to have a kit. The most important thing we can do for people, for individuals, is if everybody had a 72-hour kit, if you can survive those first 3 days, things are going to get much brighter and easier. But if you don't have that 72-hour kit, it becomes more difficult. So have a plan, have a kit, and people need to be involved. And they need to understand the challenge we face. And so it's not hard to do. In fact, it's rather quite easy. But we put it off because we think, well, earthquake, when's that going to happen? We haven't had one for a long time. Why do I think it's going to happen? even in my lifetime. So have a plan, have a kit, be ready, be involved.